A pleasant good evening and welcome to SAT TV's Channel 9 Evening News. I am your presenter, Nisha Charles. Thank you for joining us. Among the media development, gold sponsors for the 16th World Creole Music Festival have been announced. Bermuda premiere to take center stage with former President Clinton in New York. Relatives buried dead from Karachi fires. And in sports, Dominica's team for CFU Digital Caribbean Cup named. Details of these and other stories after the break.
Support local, support SAT Telecoms Limited, the people's choice. Join hands with SAT and come in and sign up for your digital internet connection today. The fastest broadband digital internet. Why settle for imitation when you can get a better choice? Choose from our 5 packages. We've got the warm-up package going at 256 kilobytes for $28.75. We've got the Breezy package at 1.5 megabytes going at $57.50. We've got the Maverick package at 3 megabytes going at $69. We've got the Jetstream package at 4 megabytes going at $126.50. And we've got the Warp Drive package at 6 megabytes going at $241.50. So come in today and join in hands with the family of SAT Telecoms Limited and sign up for your fastest digital broadband internet service today.
Free at last, free at last, free at last. Yes, Dominica, we are here at last. Come in today and sign up for your SAT internet. No fixed line charges, no installation charge, no modem charge, and no contract required. Just come in and sign up for the most economical internet broadband service. Choose one of 5 packages starting at $28.75. Together with your internet package, you will receive a telephone where you will be able to call SAT to SAT for free. No rental charges. Yes, SAT to SAT for free. What are you waiting for? Come in today. Sign up now for your high-speed broadband internet only with SAT. For more information, call 448-5095 or 448-5096. Remember, SAT Telecoms is the people's choice.
Thank you for staying with us. Now for the details of the news. Drastic action must be taken to correct the ills of the past. This comes from the Education Minister, Honorable Peter Seja, at a principals meeting held last week. He says with every passing year, it becomes more important that the ministry ensures that they are on the same page as the principals when dealing with challenges facing the school system.
We recognize that education is indeed important, and it remains the top priority for this administration. And I wish at this moment to enlist your help in achieving the goals set forth for the development of the human resource base of our beloved country.
Our children face many distractions that may interrupt their learning. However, it is our responsibility to provide them with the right environment that promotes effective teaching and learning.
You principals have the most important role in ensuring that our children receive the best opportunity for education. When students believe that success is possible, they will try. Therefore, the first priority at any school or in any classroom is to help students believe in themselves.
He urged principals to be effective managers that will lead their staff and students in the direction that they feel is most progressive for their school. The Education Minister trusts that the principals are able to be decisive in ways that are parallel to the mission of the Ministry of Education, that every child can learn through the provision of high-quality education.
And so it is okay to adapt to the changes to meet the needs of your students. You must be willing, principals. You must be willing to take your school into new areas, into new levels of teaching and learning. This, I believe, could mean making use of the technology that is available at some of your schools.
In some cases, some of the technologies that are available to schools are not being put to maximum use. There must also be great emphasis on classroom management, which is the foundation of effective teaching. With the prevalence of money laundering and fraud in the Caribbean in recent times, the Caribbean Institute of Forensic Accounting (CIFA) hosted a workshop in Dominica. The institute originated in Trinidad and is the brainchild of Director of Education Mr. Staffan Gray. Renee Bucco, Business Development Officer for CIFA, says the whole point of CIFA is to provide forensic and fraud prevention training with professionals in the Caribbean.
People can gain a kind of skill and understanding that is needed in the Caribbean now. So it's a specialized kind of training that CIFA offers.
CIFA has been in existence for about 3 years and wants to focus on the Caribbean islands. Like anywhere else, fraud and money laundering is prevalent in the Caribbean and is something we need to be aware of in the future. Mr. Edward Nagel is the principal of Nagel & Associates Inc. and is here to teach the fundamentals in fraud and forensic auditing. He says the course is designed to help increase awareness and knowledge around fraud and understanding the schemes that occur within the organizations.
Experience as a forensic investigator is that prevention rather than detection is the best deterrent against fraud, and that if you educate people with the knowledge and skills to identify the red flags of fraud, you will not only mitigate the risk and help them identify it, but at the same time it will deter would-be fraudsters from engaging in illicit activity because they know people are now aware that these things are occurring within the organization.
He says education, training and continuous awareness eliminates the complacency that might occur and would result in fraud.
I think as well it's important to put in place proper policies and procedures and internal controls and monitor compliance with those policies and procedures to ensure that people are actually following. It's not enough just to have a policy, you actually have to test it to ensure that people are actually adhering to the rules prescribed.
Some of the topics covered at the workshop were corruption, the different fraud schemes, and the red flags or indicators of fraud. Mr. Nagel and Ms. Bucco hopes to have these workshops all over the Caribbean. A national vector control consultation was held for stakeholders on Wednesday, September 12th. All the participants converged at the Public Service Union on Valley Road for the consultation, which was organized by the Pan American Health Organization (PAHO) and the Environment Health Department (EHO). The objectives were to review the National Integrated Vector Control Plan and to explain to participants how to use the Integrated Vector Control Manual as an educational tool. Speaking at the consultation, Chief Environmental Health Officer, Mr. Anthony Scotland, says it is very important that we do all that we can to reduce harmful effects of vectors, especially as they account for 1/5 of damage for food supplies around the world. In Dominica, the recent outbreaks of leptospirosis, dengue fever, and gastrointestinals are a wake-up call to recognize the devastating impact vectors have on our economy and health.
We have recognized the numerous risks existing in the environment which can perpetuate emerging diseases, emerging or re-emerging diseases, and is utilizing the stakeholders approach to manage the communicable disease in Dominica. Because a disease, say like leptospirosis or dengue, it is considered to be a communicable disease. You have what you call non-communicable disease, like the chronic diseases like diabetes, cancers, hypertension. These are some of the non-chronic, the chronic diseases in Dominica. These actually diseases that cause illness and death. In terms of you look at the 10 leading cause of death in Dominica, you'll find those diseases are up in first 5. But the diseases that cause a lot of mortality, morbidity. Morbidity means illnesses. You have occurrence of disease among your population, and those are related to vectors.
Mrs. Scotland added that dengue can cause a massive negative impact on the population over a period of time, and though while some may not die, many will become ill, which in turn will then affect the productive sector. PAHO representative to Dominica, Mrs. Shirley Augustine, pointed out that vector-borne diseases such as malaria, dengue, and leptospirosis continue to be a major health problem in the Americas.
For important diseases such as dengue, malaria, leptospirosis, vector control is the only means of protecting populations from infection. The concept of integrated vector management, also known as IVM, is based on lessons learned from integrated pest management in the agricultural sector. and aims to optimize and rationalize the use of resources and tools for vector control. IVM is defined as a rational decision-making process for the optimal use of resources for vector control. It aims to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the national vector control programs in order to provide countries with a sustainable, ecologically sound, long-term approach to vector management, which will reduce dependency on insecticides and protect the population from vector-borne diseases.
Mrs. Augustine says the integrated vector management requires institutional arrangements, regulatory framework, decision-making criteria and procedures which can be applied at the lowest administrative level. It also requires the decision-making skills to support intersectoral action and to establish sustainable vector control and health-based targets.
WHO has called for the strengthening of integrated vector management and capacity building as one of the strategic areas for action. Like Mr. Scotland said, vector-borne diseases result in ill health, death, and economic hardship for the affected communities and are a serious impediment to economic development. Vector control has a proven track record of successfully reducing or interrupting disease transmission when coverage is sufficiently high. Thus, it has an important role to play in the reduction of vector-borne disease burdens, adding resilience to the public health gains achieved through disease management and giving high priority to prevention.
Mrs. Augustine said that the application of integrated vector management principles to vector controls will contribute to the judicious use of insecticides and extend their useful life. The Integrated Vector Control Manual was developed by PAHO consultant Dr. Samuel Rawlins, a renowned entomologist in the Caribbean, along with other PAHO consultants.
What we are seeking from DVS is the opportunity for us to be able to speak to the people of Dominica through DVS and eventually through GIS about the policies and programs that we have embarked on, intend to embark on, geared towards the development of our.
These were the words of leader of the United Workers' Party, Mr. Edison James, who says that the United Workers' Party is repeatedly denied access to state media, which is unacceptable in what is supposed to be a democratic country. Mr. James pointed that even after writing to the board of directors of the Dominica Broadcasting Corporation, the DBS radio station, the responses they received were very dismissive, while stating the matter is being attended to by the board.
Written communication in recent times to the board was as far back as March, I think it was. And up to now, we have not had an engagement with the board to discuss our approach. We are aware that last, I think 2 elections ago, we approached the corporation and actually gave them a check for payment for the broadcast of advertisements. That check was sent back to us. At the same time, the ruling Labour Party had no such restrictions placed on them. Last elections, they came up, or the Labour Party, we have to say, came up with a strategy which they thought was cunning, not to put matters to do with their campaign on DBS, except I think 2 of them, which they claimed wrongly were statements by the Prime Minister.
Mr. James added that there is a level of contempt, disdain and rudeness by the board of directors to refuse to do business with the UWP, who has elected and appointed members in Parliament. He pointed out the persons who make up the board has responsibility in other important areas for delivering service to the public, and their actions are disheartening.
Interestingly though, recently the appeal court has given a ruling which I trust the DBS board or the corporation board will pay attention to, essentially saying that organizations such as DBS cannot discriminate against anybody based on their political considerations as far as broadcasting of materials from anyone is concerned. We've heard the statement, no law, no constitution will prevent me from doing what I want to do. I trust that the board will not seek cover under that kind of dictate.
Mr. James says, however, they will continue to seek to engage with the board so that they can have their message and programs heard by the nation through the self-proclaimed nation station, and hope that they respond positively. Numerous calls were made to the Dominica Broadcasting Corporation, the DBS radio station, in an effort to speak with one of the board members, but all efforts proved futile. SAT TV News will provide an update as soon as a board member makes his or himself available for comment on this matter. It was a momentous day on Wednesday, September 12th, for one priest who celebrated in the form of a church service his Diamond Jubilee, signifying 55 years as a priest but 60 years in religious life. Redemptorist Father Charles Vermeulen was all smiles while celebrating the milestone which was held at the Fatima Church in Newtown. Many well-wishers, friends, and others such as Parliamentary Representative for the Roseau Staff Constituency, Honorable Ambrose George, and Minister of Public Works, Energy and Ports, Honorable Raymond Blackmore, turned out in large numbers to celebrate with Father Charles for such a memorable achievement in his life. Father Charles, who was described as a warm person by those who know him, says once we have love in our hearts, there is nothing we cannot do, and with this attitude, the world will be a much better place.
Isn't that so? Yes. That when the love is up, everything is pleasant, everything is easy. But when it goes down, then it is difficult. And so my life has been inspired, I would say, by love. You know, I was brought up in a large family. I don't get to say it because of the modern mentality. People have some funny reflections when they say it. But I'm the 16th in the family. And there was still a little girl after me, but she died. So I was the youngest of 16 children. And my mother was a widow. That is the side I've never known my mother. So what a wonderful woman that must have been, to raise up those children.
He added that out of the 55 years as a priest, 52 of it was spent here in the Caribbean, which he regards as the greatest blessing in his life. He says some of his most memorable days was when he just arrived in Dominica and felt like a stranger, but was embraced like a family member and was put in charge of rebuilding all churches after the devastation of Hurricane David in 1979. Some of the organizations Father Charles was instructional in founding was the Christian Union Movement and Marriage Encounters for Couples, which were all movements of the heart.
If you love, you can do everything. If you remember only that, what I said tonight, to keep your love alive, you know, and for your church, and for your family, and for, you know, your gospel and everything, keep your love alive, and you will do very well.
Bishop of Roseau, His Lordship Gabriel Malzer, who was also present at the celebration, says what Father Charles has done is a great achievement for staying dedicated to religious life for 60 years and counting.
I must say that he is a really human person, and I'm sure you will agree with me. And I want to take this opportunity to thank him for his ministry. While I was sitting there, what was going through my mind is the tremendous gift of the priesthood that he has had the opportunity to share for 55 years, he says, and 60 years as a religious. What a privilege. And he has spent so many of those years with us. We have every reason to thank God for the blessing that he has given to us through Father Charles. And so tonight I want once again to thank you, Father Charles, for your goodness, for your presence, and for your work.
Many of the other priests present also join in thanking Father Charles for his 60 years of dedicated service to religious life and the many contributions he has made to Dominica. Gold sponsors of this year's 16th annual World Choral Music Festival have been announced. Some of them include Kyrie FM, DBS Radio, SAT Telecommunications Limited, Marpin 2K4, and Crazy Coconuts and Gator Sounds. Kyrie FM will partner with the DFC to broadcast every night of the World Choral Music Festival to support the culture of Dominica. Mr. Steve Vidal, who represents Kyrie FM, said they have been faithful to the DFC and continue to support them and the government of Dominica.
We are proud to be partners with the DFC in the promotion of the World Choral Music Festival, and we can tell our listeners that you can stay put, stay tuned. We have quite a package for you, particularly those who listen via the internet.
DBS Radio has always recognized Dominica's indigenous culture and has been on board the World Choral Music Festival since its inception. DBS representative Cecil Joseph says DBS is not a sponsor but a partner of the World Choral Music Festival, and they will be working with them to advertise, promote and sensitize the public about the World Choral Music Festival.
DBS as a partner have decided that this year that our contribution will be above $40,000, and that is involving the duvet that we heard of earlier on. I think there's about 6 duvets, 4 duvets every Friday night from about 8.
DBS will also give commercials exclusive of Watson's flashes and time cues. Marpin 2K4 wants to give the public the opportunity to advertise our independence. Jessica Peanut Byrne, who represents Marpin, would like to give everyone the opportunity during the festival to promote themselves.
The advertising department of Ping Ads at Marpin 2K4 has a 15% discount across the board. For persons who are going to be, on the grounds of WCMF, who have products to share, our visitors are looking for a full package. And we want to enable persons to advertise themselves and to see WCMF as the prime event that it is and has been for years to come.
SAT Telecoms has always been passionate about partnerships that have a local flavor, and it's committed to Dominica's culture and artistic advancement. Ms. Elizabeth Sincere, who represents SAT Telecoms, says the company has rendered unwavering support for over 10 years and is committed to working with the DFC for many years to come.
We would like our customers to know that they could tune into SAT. We'll be carrying all of the events live. And we also have discounts for customers who want to come in and advertise during the World Music Choral Festival. I wish to say to everyone, have a wonderful Sweet 16 coming from SAT Telecommunications, the People's Choice. And SAT is also your affordable telecommunications.
Crazy Coconuts and Gator Sounds are all sponsors represented by Sean Shillingford. He says they will be bringing across the festival duvets this year.
If you want to see your favorite band or you like a band, they cannot make it this year, but maybe next year, you might get a good chance to see them on the festival duvet at Crazy Coconuts. So we're looking forward to a lot of excitement, and we're going to have a lot of giveaways, all kind of different things are going to be happening, and we welcome it with open arms.
The festival duvets will start at the end of September. The DFC is urging everyone to support the festival this year. In light of the various stories with conflicting information on the arrest of a young man who was found with a submachine gun and ammunition on Friday, September 7th, the Director of Public Prosecution, Mr. Jean Pestina, made the following statement. On Friday, September 7th, Ashton Telemac of Wesley was driving a vehicle belonging to a police officer at the officer's request. The vehicle Mr. Telemac was driving was given to him the night before, Thursday, September 6th, for the purpose of collecting 2 barrels at the Woodbridge Parade Port in Foncollet for the officer's sister. Mr. Telemac was arrested at the port when a submachine gun, 24 rounds of 9mm ammunition, 4 12-gauge rounds of shotgun ammunition, and 1.45 caliber ammunition was found under the driver's seat by Port Authority personnel and a police officer. He was correctly arrested on suspicion of having the firearm and ammunition in his possession. However, Mr. Telemaque explained to the officers he had no knowledge of the gun and ammunition. When the owner of the vehicle, which Mr. Telemaque was driving, was questioned, he confirmed Mr. Telemaque's response that Mr. Telemaque had no knowledge of the gun and ammunition. Simply, Mr. Telemaque had not been charged with an offense. On that premise, instructions were then given to the police department to release Mr. Telemaque by the Director of Public Prosecution's Office. The matter of an illegal firearm being found in the officer's vehicle is the subject of a police investigation and inquiry. It should be emphasized that Mr. Telemaque was arrested on suspicion. He had not been charged with any offense, and therefore any criminal charge against him has been discontinued. I trust I've assisted the media in clarifying the erroneous and mischievous news releases by various media houses on this incident. It should now be appreciated why the Director of Public Prosecution's Office does not prefer reasons for a decision in every matter. I hope that satisfies your query. And in court tonight, it was an innocent until proven guilty day at the Roseau Magistrate Court on the morning of Thursday, September 13th, as all of the defendants who were brought before Magistrate Candia George pled not guilty. Bus driver Mr. Finley Defoe of St. Joseph, who was charged with threats, where it is alleged he told a police officer, "I will cut out your neck and hands," while insulting the officer. Mr. Defoe pled not guilty and was bailed in the sum of $5,000 by his sister, Miss Medina Defoe. The defendant has to report to the Roseau Police Station on Mondays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The incident took place on Wednesday, September 12th, and the trial will commence on March 28, 2013. In related court news, Mr. David Ali pled not guilty to threats and driving an uninsured vehicle, a Toyota RAV4 registration number TE361, which took place on Saturday, September 8th on Hillsborough Street. Mr. Ali, who is from Bellevue Chopin, allegedly told a female police officer, "When I meet you out of your uniform, I will deal with you accordingly." The defendant was already on station bail in the sum of $3,500, which was posted by Ms. Makiba Aline. The trial is set for April 4th, 2013. In more court news, Goodwill resident Mr. Shadi Esprit pled not guilty to the charge of battery for an incident which occurred on Friday, September 7th. It is alleged that Mr. Esprit beat Stephanie Panthier, a student of the Business Training Center. The defendant is on $3,000 self-bail, and his trial will begin on April 4th, 2013. Malcolm Zephyr of Glasgow Foncollet will have to wait until April the 4th, 2013 for his trial after pleading not guilty to the charge of battery. It is alleged that the defendant beat Reynold Faustin, which took place on Friday, September 7th. He was bailed in the sum of $3,500 by his father, Mr. Gerald Zephyr. Magistrate advised both Miss Faustin and Mr. Zephyr to stay away from each other, as it was revealed that two have a long ongoing dispute. This has been the local segment of the news. Coming up next, regional highlights.